Have you ever totally lost it on your kids and then like your partner looks at you and they're like, what is wrong with you? And you realize like, what's wrong is that they're not listening to me and my tag is too itchy on my shirt and it's hot outside and I'm sweating and I'm hot and I'm miserable. And like, then you start thinking about it. Like, well, that's not really a reason to like totally lose my mind on everybody. Like, oh, what kind of mom I am. What's wrong with me? You're like, why on earth would I have lost it over something as silly as whatever? It's not that big of a deal. Maybe it's just me. But chances are when you get to the end of the day and you totally lose it on your kids because they won't get off their pads before dinner, that's the straw that broke the camel's back, but that's not actually the problem. So today we're going to be talking about hypersensitivity and like ADHD overstimulation and dealing with criticism and RSD, which is rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and like understanding why all these little things add up to all of a sudden like you're in a really bad mood. Because I don't think it's just that you're too sensitive or you should have tougher skin. So we're going to get into why and what to do about it. Are you overwhelmed by motherhood and barely keeping your head above water? Are you confused and frustrated by how all the other moms make it look so easy? You can't figure out how to manage the chaos in your mind, your home, or your family. I get you, mama. Parenting with ADHD is hard. Here is your permission slip to let go of the Pinterest-worthy visions of organization and structure fit for everyone else. Let's do life like our brains do life. Creatively, lovingly, and with all our might. When we embrace who we are and how our brains work, we can figure out how to live our lives successfully and, in turn, lead our families well. At the end of the day, we just want to be good moms. But, spoiler alert, you are already a great mom. ADHD does not mean you're doomed to be a hot mess, mama. You can rewrite your story from shame spiral to success story. And I'll be right here beside you to cheer you on. Welcome to Motherhood and ADHD. Before we jump into today's episode, let's read our review of the week. So speaking of rejection-sensitive dysphoria, our review this week is 1 star, titled Just Advertising. Nothing but advertising for her program. I've listened to multiple episodes now and have learned nothing but when to sign up for her classes. Disheartening for someone who needs help. From Why Does My Name Matter 7 on Apple Podcasts. Wah, 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 wah. Well, let me tell you, the first time I read that, it hurt. Because immediately I get defensive and I'm like, what? And I'm like, doesn't this person know that I work really hard on this and blah, 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 blah. And immediately like the thought spiral starts. I'm like, but what if I am spending too much time and I turn into a creepy car salesman peddling things and tricking people? Immediately, my brain goes into all the different places. Downward spiral. And if I had heard this when I first started, I would have just crumpled up in a ball and not continued onward. But now I have the skills to stop the downward spiral and think through whether or not this person's words matter to me and my heart. Do they hold value? Do they get to determine how I value myself? And I can work through all that. We're going to talk about that here in a sec. But it doesn't have to ruin my day now. Because I know that by putting myself out on the internet that I'm going to get rude comments. I'm going to get criticism. And then not everybody's going to like my style or the way I do things or who I am. Because honestly, most of my negative reviews are about who I am. And I'm not going to change that for them. So I can deal with this now because I have the skill set. But I'm also not going to expect myself to like be impervious to this. Yeah, it hurts when people say they don't like the thing that you worked really hard on and then gave them for free. But I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea and that's all right. I'm not here to like show you a watered down version of myself that everybody loves. Because when you're vanilla and you're for everybody, then you don't stand for anything. And I don't want to show up here and stand for nothing. So if Why Does My Name Matter 7 wants to say that they don't like my stuff, that's okay. I don't have to agree with them and they don't have to agree with me. They are welcome to just hit next and play something else on their podcast player. It's not a reflection on who I am or what I do. So this is exactly what we're talking about today. Now, hopefully you are still here and you like me more than this 1-star person did. So please, go put your rating in and leave me a review and hopefully it's better than this one. but somebody else's words don't have to enter my boundaries and the way that I view myself. So let's talk about it today. So as I was doing some research on what kind of episodes I wanted to put together for the fall here, some of the phrases that were popping up were things like hypersensitivity, ADHD overstimulation, rejection sensitive dysphoria, and all of these, to me, are very related. Other people might see them as different things, but to me, they're very related because it's looking at something's happening during your day, inputs coming in, and then how are you affected by that? What are you doing with that information? And how is it affecting your stress level? When we feel hypersensitive, that means a lot of inputs that's coming in is getting through, and it's a lot of things making an impact on how you're feeling at once. The same thing with being overstimulated. There's a lot of stimulation coming in, and it feels like too much, and it's affecting the way that you feel. Now, I'm not saying that that's not valid. I'm not saying that you should be unaffected by any of this. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you need to be somebody different. What I'm saying is that we can gather the skills to be able to deal with it in a way that feels better to you. The same thing with rejection sensitive dysphoria. This can happen when somebody actually is unkind and says something critical. It can also be when somebody says facts that hurt your feelings. It can also be in a way that you perceive something's going on, but there was nothing overt. And you're like, I'm not really sure if that was rude or not. And it also can be perceiving that something is going to happen, that you're worried about that person is going to be upset at you, but you don't actually know they're upset. You're worried about what if they are upset at you. And that can create changes in the way that you feel based on what you're worried about what might happen. We cannot change that input is going to come in, but we can change the way that we react to it. Now, if you have been here for a sec, you may have heard me talk about the stress ladder before, but I'm going to jump into a quick review of your stress response. So when you think about your stress level, you can Google lots of pictures of this drawn out visually. I really like the ladder version, but my ladder version goes down. So if you think about if you were on ground level, the sun is shining, the trees are blowing in the breeze, everything's great, you have no stress. And then when you get stressed, it's like you're going down into like the sewer system and like the manhole cover is removed and you're climbing down this ladder into the darkness. And so as soon as you get a little stressed, as soon as part of you is moving down the ladder, you're on the first rung of the ladder and you're underground. Yes, the trees are still blowing in the breeze and the sun is shining, but your feet are now stuck in place. And so you're not free to do whatever. Like that stress is affecting you even in a small way. Even though most of your body is still in the glorious sunshine, part of you is already underground. And as you're moving down underground, once your feet hit 5, and we've got 10 rungs, so 0 to 10, once your feet hit 5, your head's underground. And as our marriage counselor always says, nothing good happens after a 5. Because when you're at 5 and you're halfway down the stress ladder, already you are under the effects of stress. Even though you haven't hit rock bottom, already your body has adjusted for that. So as you get stressed, your body starts protecting you. So it starts diverting resources. Adrenaline starts going so that you can take off. If you need to take off, fight or flight, you need to get ready to fight. Your logic systems go off once you hit about a 5. So you're not using your logic brain. You're acting more on like gut and instinct. Your body is diverting your resources from you're not doing digestive work. Your body's sending all the energy to getting ready for the fight and the protection. And then as you continue going down, I imagine around 5, there is water in the sewer. So once you go down to 6, now your feet are wet. And as you move down to 7, 8, the water's up around your waist level. And when you get down to the bottom, number 10, that's when your head's underwater and the doo-doo has hit the fan. And you're in full-on stress overload, whether that's a meltdown and you're yelling at people, or you're crumpled up into a ball, whether you've disassociated and you go and hide in the bathroom scrolling your phone. But at 10, the systems have shut down and you are not capable of doing anything except trying to survive. All day long, stressful things are happening. You get stuck in traffic, you're running behind, your toddler wants the pink cup, not the green one. Your teenager calls and is like, I forgot the thing that I was supposed to bring to school. And all day these things are coming in. So you're constantly getting stressed and you're constantly moving down the ladder. To sum it up in a very simple version, our job as mom is to figure out how to keep moving up the ladder so that we don't hit rock bottom and drown, because that itchy shirt moved you down and getting too hot moved you down. And we want to be able to have at the end of the day, when it's the most stressful and there's the homework arguments, which I literally just walked away from. And there's like trying to get kids, in bath and bed, like that you have capacity at that point in the day to still deal with the stress and show up in the way that you want to show up as a mom. So when we look at things like hypersensitivity, I do think that we tend to have an especially like sensitive nervous system. And in some ways, like this is a really great skill. I'm sure back in the hunter-gatherer days, it served our human population well, keeping an eye out on all the dangers. But in today's society, it's not as appreciated. Let's pause a moment and say thank you to our sponsor, which is understood.org. They have a great new podcast that you can check out on your podcast app right here. It's called In It, Raising Kids Who Learn Differently. What I love about it is that in these episodes, you're hearing stories from other parents. You're getting other perspectives and advice that's working for other families so that you know you're not alone. Specifically for kids who are having challenges with reading or math or ADHD or dyslexia, as there is a good chance you do since you're here. This is a great show for practical tips, helpful info, and really boosting your confidence as a parent. To listen, search for the podcast here in your podcast app. It's called In It, Raising Kids Who Learn Differently, and have a listen. That's In It, Raising Kids Who Learn Differently, right here in your podcast app. And I disagree with the whole attention deficit. It's actually that I have too much attention, my brain's going everywhere, and trying to filter out stuff is a lot harder for me. So I can get misdirected onto, oh, look, I forgot to fold that laundry. Oh, look, I forgot to start the dishwasher. Like those things can catch my attention. And then I end up on, 7 side quests. But also the things like the itchy shirt keeps bothering me, whereas most people wouldn't notice the itchy tag. Or you know how like that one hair gets in your shirt and you can't find it and it's just driving you bonkers? Like that information is still getting through. And all those little things are adding up. It kind of feels like the filter is missing. And so like more things come in that I notice and feel stressed about than I wish they did. And this is how we can get overstimulated, because while everyone else doesn't notice the person over there tippy-tapping their pen, I notice it and it's driving me bonkers. When I'm in a conversation and there's a lot of background noise or a lot of other conversations going on and I can't focus on the person who's talking because all the other information is like too loud in my head and I can't hear what they're saying, then I get overstimulated. Because interestingly, like our brains take in literally like millions of pieces of information all the time. And our brains filter out most of it. And like, that's how, like when you have, there's like those cases where like there's, multiple witnesses to like a bank robbery and they like ask everyone to describe it. And then they come up with like varying stories where like somebody's like convinced the person had a green hat on and somebody else says a blue hat. Like it's because your brain does not record all of the information coming into your brain. Like our poor little brains could not handle noticing every little detail that goes on around us all the time. So our brain does not hold on to all of it. And it just kind of like fills in the gaps of the things it doesn't save, which is like pretty cool that our brain can like figure out what's necessary to hold on to and what's not. And like that's actually how we make memories better when things are unusual or new. And actually, I was just reading an article the other day about like how like time feels like it's passing slower when you're doing a new thing because there's so much information coming in that's new. Like the example they gave, oh man, I really wish I'd written down that article. At the time, I was not thinking of this episode. I'm just thinking of it now. Like if you move somewhere new and you walk from your house like down the street to the park, the first time you walk there, it's very memorable. Like you notice all the things along the way and the details, and it feels like it takes you a long time to get there. But when you're coming back, a lot of that information has already come into your brain and your brain already like filters out all the stuff that it doesn't need. So the way back feels a lot shorter. Or like once you've lived there for 3 years and you're walking the same thing, your brain doesn't take in all that stuff because it's not new, it's not novel. So in order to make memories stick, you want to do things that are novel, which made me really happy because the way that I used to teach foreign language was a lot of using novelty in storytelling to help kids remember these new words. So like it made my teacher heart really happy to hear that. But it's like, if you want to like slow down the passage of time feeling, like taking in all those little details and like doing something new or out of the ordinary is what makes it exciting and help you hold on to that memory better than the same old that you've done 16 times. Now, the other piece of neuroscience I want to tie in here, your brain's job is to protect you. So when you are thinking about something, your brain is trying to find information to back that up. It's called confirmation bias. So if you're irritated, you're going to be looking for more irritants because your brain is in the place of like, I'm irritated. Let me back that up. Oh, look, so-and-so left their socks on the floor again. And look at what this person did. I can't believe they did that. And so our brain is looking for confirmation of that. So like, positive thinking can get like a lot of eye rolls, but like it really does when you're looking for things that are positive, your brain will then find evidence of that and help you support that information. And I'm like, I really want to go on this tangent about ruminating right now, but I'm like, nope, I got another episode coming about that shortly. Hold that together, Patricia. Pause it, stay on track. Okay. So when we're thinking about hypersensitivity or overstimulation, it's like all these other inputs are coming in. We're not filtering out things. And like this comes in like prioritizing is an issue for ADHD. Like our brain is taking in all this information and it hasn't prioritized what we need to keep around and what we can let go of. So when you're in a situation where this person is talking a lot and you can't understand what this other person is saying because the background music's too loud and all the things are like, it's like too much input coming in at once and your brain can't process it all at the same time. To me, that's actually very similar to when you're feeling too sensitive, quote, too sensitive, about people's words or actions. We start looking at all the little details and like, wait, I noticed that their tone changed or they kind of looked at me funny and maybe they're not saying everything that they're thinking about. What if they're actually upset with me? Well, they sent me that text and it just says, can we talk? I don't know what's wrong. What if it was this? Did I say something wrong yesterday? And our brain starts going down this like shame spiral of all the things that we did wrong to them over all this time and like imagining what if I had said something that they could have taken the wrong way because we've noticed all these little details. And again, our brain is a predictive mechanism. It takes in the information and then looks through all the past experiences and is like, is this information coming in telling me like something good is happening or something bad is happening? So especially if you've had a lot of trauma in your history, your brain's going to know very well what that looks like. Dump it into the trauma category and be like, something bad's gonna happen. And we can go down that rabbit hole of getting sidetracked into like all the what ifs of could go wrong. And sometimes that doesn't serve us. Now, I do want to pause a moment and be like, we do want to give credit to like when your gut says something is wrong, it often is. Like, again, confirmation bias. If your brain is taking information and it's like something doesn't add up to here, like something feels off, it probably is. So we want to trust that when the moment we feel like something's wrong, take care of yourself. Where the hard part, I think, to discern the difference is like knowing the difference between a gut feeling of like, I don't feel safe in this moment to, well, what if blah, blah, blah happens and then I'm not safe? It's being able to determine the difference of like, this input is coming in and am I making my judgment and like listening to my gut based on the input that's coming in, or in between the input coming in and making the decision, I started on the what if trail. That distinction is really hard, especially when you have ADHD and you've probably had a fair amount of bad experiences with the way other people have treated you. Because the hard part is like when you're always stressed, if you're always sitting at like 5+ on the stress ladder, like everything feels stressful when you're at like a level 8. So when everything feels stressful, everything starts to feel like a red flag. And things that aren't actually red flags feel like red flags because your body's on high alert. So it's a lot harder to sort through things when everything feels like it's a problem. It's kind of like when the check engine light on your car has been on a long time. And because it's been on a really long time, you start to ignore the fact that you needed to fix something. But then like other problems could happen in the car, but like the check engine light's already on. So it's like, well, is that a problem? Is that not a problem? I mean, that thing didn't trigger the check engine light because it was already on. Do I actually need to deal with that? And then we just start to ignore it. It's like the car's just messed up. When everything is a problem, it's hard to know which problems are big problems and which problems are small problems. Because when the lights are on in your car, you're like, I don't know, is that like a $500 warning light? Or is that like a $20 warning light? Or is that actually you need a new car warning light? You don't know because all the warning lights have been there for so long, you can't tell the difference. This is why I think doing therapy and having coaching really help you, because you're able to work through things and reset your warning lights. Like therapy is really good for sorting out what's happened to you in the past and understanding it so it doesn't continue to affect you going forward. Coaching helps you move forward, set a goal, and get there. Doing therapy allows you to reset a lot of the warning lights back to normal so that when something weird does happen, you're like, ooh, that was a warning light. I know that now. It's not that everything's on fire all the time. Now I can tell the difference when something is wrong because it's not everything wrong all the time. And what I do a lot in coaching is I'm like, okay, well, we know that these things are obstacles. How do we rewire your brain so that they're no longer affecting you in that way? How do we get you to go in a different direction? So when someone gives you an eyebrow raise, your brain doesn't automatically go back to that disapproving aunt from when you were 8 and pull up that file and be like, look, when people give you the eyebrow, here's what happens. Instead, your brain goes, oh, someone gave me an eyebrow. Is there something going on right now that would deserve that? No? Okay, I can move on. But a lot of us with ADHD don't know what the baseline is. We don't know what that reset level is. We don't know what it's like to not be stressed. We don't know what it's like to not be dealing with all the traumas. We don't know what it's like to have a safe place and connect back into ourselves so that you know what that voice inside sounds like. So that when things go off kilter, because you also know your anchor so well. Are you craving a way for life and motherhood to just feel a bit easier? When you feel like you're being tossed around the ocean with no land or buoy in sight? Enter Lighthouse Group ADHD Coaching, specifically built for moms with ADHD. This is a realistic solution for ADHD mamas to finally feel like you have your crap together, so you can thrive instead of survive, feel in control of the day-to-day juggle, and show up as a present, calm, and confident mom in life, family, and work, all without adding a bunch more to your to-do list in just 90 days. This is a small, compassionate, non-judgmental community of moms who get it. You are not alone in this journey, and you've got personalized feedback and support from me as your ADHD coach. In Lighthouse, you'll learn the 6 key skills to overcome the most prevalent patterns that women with ADHD are facing, and then find solutions that are fit both for ADHD and for mom life. In our 6 Zoom meetings, we are going to cultivate calm, rewire past patterns, protect your mood, restore self-trust, master energy management, and build a flexible family schedule. We meet twice a month on Zoom to learn these skills, and in between, we have office hours so that you can get your questions answered in real time. We have our 24/7 online Slack community, and it comes with some of my best courses, like Time Management Mastery for ADHD moms. All of my courses and coaching always come with a video replay, AI transcripts, so if you prefer to read or watch, if you prefer to listen, there's a private podcast. So I've customized this program to fit exactly what you need as a mom with ADHD. In our 3 months together, you will build a full-scale toolbox for your life so that you can show up every day knowing wholeheartedly that you are doing your best and you feel like you got your crap together most days. Lighthouse is currently enrolling, so head over to my website at patriciasung.com/lighthouse. Choose the option that works best for you and sign up so that you're moving forward towards action and not just wishing things would be different. Again, that's patriciasung.com/lighthouse and join ADHD group coaching tailored for moms and get your life moving forward today. So when it comes to being too sensitive about criticism, if you've been hurt a lot of times, of course you're going to assume that someone else is being hurtful because you've been programmed over the years that people are hurtful. So you're not imagining things. Those words really did hurt you. You're not making it up. And we want to listen to ourselves so that we know, when we get that eyebrow arch, is it something that we need to do something about? Or is that something we can let go and be like, their opinion does not matter in this situation. I can just let that roll on off my back. One of the most important ways that we can combat the overstimulation and the hypersensitivity and the hurt feelings from other people's criticism is in drawing boundaries. If you have not read Nedra Taleb's book about boundaries, please go buy it right now. It's excellent. But we can create boundaries for people. We can create boundaries for the environment that we're in. And the most beautiful thing that I learned, hands down, is that boundaries are for you. They're not for anyone else. They're for you. They're how you maintain your safe space around you it's not to keep other people out. It's to maintain your safe space and where that, where that boundary, that's not a good, where that boundary exists. That's how you know your boundary is. That was not helpful. Let me try that again. The boundary is what allows you to know where you're comfortable letting those people in. It's setting up the space that is safe for you. It's deciding ahead of time what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. I think one of the most important things that we do in coaching is I help you listen to yourself. Because when you listen to yourself, you can trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, you have more confidence. But honestly, the listening and the trusting yourself isn't the hard part. We do well when we're empowered. The hard part is that once you know what you're willing and not willing to do, it's making a different decision in what to do because you're no longer just following your automatic pattern. Or if you do follow the automatic pattern, it's knowing that oh, this isn't what I want to do. And that discrepancy is scary. Having to choose new things, make different decisions, that's scary. So when we pull this all together, input's going to come in. What we can do is define and know exactly what do you want? And then what action do you want to take in that situation? So for example, you know that when it gets too noisy, it's overwhelming to you. So in places where you know it's going to be noisy, what do you need in order to feel supported? If you know you need buffer when it's too noisy, do you know you need to leave the room? Do you know that you need to wear earplugs or the loop noise dampening things? Do you need to not go to that party or, choose restaurants where there's not a lot of background noise or choose to take frequent breaks? What is it that's going to feel supportive to you? So you're not necessarily saying I'm not going to be around noise ever, because that's not possible. But you know what you need, and you know the ways that can support you to meet your need. Another example, you get sidetracked by side quests. If you know you really want to complete something, then what are the skills that you can learn to stay on track? What is your plan to do with all the ideas that pop up? And I forgot to do that laundry. What are you going to do with that idea so it doesn't get lost and it actually gets taken care of later? What's your plan for that? What's your system? The side quests are going to appear. What are you going to do about them? Is it a day where you can just side quest all you want? Or is it a day where you need, in order to feel safe, to keep the side quest to a minimum? There's 15 ways to make that happen. Which ones work for you in this situation? Another example, a friend is being mean and you don't want to be around that. That's the boundary you're drawing. I don't want to be around that anymore. So are you going to limit your time with them? Are you going to talk to them about it? What are all the options that you have in order to keep yourself feeling safe and not around rude people? Take my 1-star review. I can't control their words. They can put whatever they want on the internet, just like I can put whatever I want on the internet. My boundary is that I'm not going to allow other people's words to determine my value. I will look at that criticism and say, is this something that I need to take seriously? Or is this a criticism about who I am? And I don't want to change who I am. I don't want to change standing up for what I believe in. When I think about all the years that I was afraid to tell people that they could buy something from me, I was afraid to tell you hey, I can help you more than this free podcast. Because I was worrying about being sleazy car salesman person or, the imposter syndrome that told me I wasn't good enough to be able to help people. So I shouldn't talk about it. That's something I've been working on a lot. Because I know that if I don't tell you that you have options to get help, if I don't tell you, hey, I have courses, I have a community, I have coaching. These are all ways that you can get more help and be better off than you were before. Then you're not going to get my help. So if this person's critiquing the thing that I've been working on, which is showing up and telling people that I can help them, not being a people pleaser, not shying away, not feeling like an imposter, I'm well, congrats to me. I have achieved my goal. This person is saying, Patricia, you did exactly what you set out to do. And if they don't like my goal, that's okay. It's not their goal. It's my goal. So I can let that go. So my boundary is I look at it. Is this valid criticism? No, that's their opinion. And it doesn't reflect on who I am, and I can let that go. And I'm so proud of myself for being able to say that, because 5 years ago, Patricia wouldn't have done that. 5 years ago, Patricia would have stopped making podcasts for a couple months when somebody said that or gave me a 1-star review. But I don't need to take advice from someone on the sidelines who's not in the gladiator arena putting themselves out there. I don't need advice from somebody who won't even put their name on the review when I'm out here pouring my heart out. That doesn't reflect who I am. So while I can't control other people's words, I can control whether or not I'm going to take those words to heart. Ooh, another example. A few episodes ago, and by a few I mean it could have been 5, it could have been 17, I don't know. My assistant had sent me a note that was like, hey, can we talk later? And like old me would have panicked straight up and said immediately, I'm like, no, we cannot. Tell me what it is. Like, I need to know that you're not quitting. I need to know that this is something mundane, because otherwise it's going to drive me absolutely bonkers. So like my boundary is I'm not going to just let that sit there and fester. I'm going to ask a question. Now, if that person doesn't respond, I can call them and ask. But I'm not going to allow the what ifs of, oh no, what do they mean by, can we talk later? No, I'm just going to ask and find out so that I don't spin down the what if spiral. And yes, it's taken me years of work to get to this point, and I'm proud of that. It wasn't like an overnight success, but it's something that I worked really hard on. And I want you to know that you also can build these skills. You can decide your own boundaries. You can decide what you're going to do in those situations. You can decide, what do you want to feel instead? It's one of my favorite coaching questions is, how do you want to feel about that instead? You're not stuck there. So while I don't want you to change who you are, I want you to be able to have the skills to be able to work within what you got. I want you to be able to trust yourself. I want you to be able to listen to your gut and then determine, like, is this a valid thing I need to deal with, or am I letting my what if spiral take over? I want you to know that you have choices in that. I don't want you to be a tough-shelled person. I love the fact that I'm a sensitive person. That is what makes me empathetic, and that's what makes me see people and want to help them. But that doesn't mean I have to get drugged down underwater and drown by the feelings and the heartache. There's ways that I can protect myself and my safety and not be in a place of burnout and overwhelm. So to sum it all up, I don't want you to change who you are. But I do want you to have the tools to be able to deal with it in a way that still makes you feel confident and calm and powerful, or whatever adjective you want to put in there. Because we can take those pieces of us and view them as weaknesses, or we can take them and utilize them as strengths. But Successful Mama, we don't have to suffer in silence. You are powerful and you can make things different. And so I'm going to gladly lean into my 1-star review and say, you know what? If you want my help, you can get it. Lighthouse Group Coaching is open, assuming there's still spots open when this airs, until September 10th. We start on September 12th. And if you're listening to this after that, enrollment's going to be starting soon for the next group. So go sign up or go put yourself on the wait list, because we don't have to suffer alone. We can make things different, and you know where to find me. Head over to patriciasung.com/lighthouse, and you can learn all about my group coaching. And if it's a good fit for you, I want to see you in there. I want to make things different. And if it's not, that's okay. You can just hit next on the podcast and listen to the next one. That's okay too. I'll talk to you soon, Successful Mama. For more resources, classes, and community, head over to my website, motherhoodinadhd.com.